This is 6.9, lesson 2, and for this lesson, we are going to compute with scientific notation. So our first part is, which of the following are in scientific notation? So remember, in order to be in scientific notation, I need a number times 10 to a power, and that number needs to be in between 1 and 10, or -1 and -10. So looking at letter A is not in scientific notation because this number is not between 1 and 0. Or 1 and 10, I'm sorry. It's not in between 1 and 10. And so the next part down here says if it's not in scientific notation, convert it to scientific notation. So in order to have a number between 1 and 10, I need my decimal to move in between my 1 and 4 so that I have 1.42 times 10 to a power. Now if I move my decimal, my exponent also has to change. Going from my blue number to my pink number, my number is getting larger by 1 decimal place over. So it means my exponent needs to get smaller by 1. Okay, so looking at letter B, my first number is in between 1 and 10. It's times 10 to a power. This is in scientific notation. Letter C, -5 is in between -1 and -10, so that's fine. Times 10 to a power. This is also scientific notation. The letter D, 25.7 is not between 1 and 10. So we do need to change that. I have 25.7 times 10 to the -4th. Now to make this in scientific notation, I need to move my decimal to be in between my 2 and my 5, so I have 2.57. This number, to go from 25 to 2.5, is getting smaller by 1, so my exponent does the opposite and gets larger by 1. Now you have to remember that with negative numbers, -4 plus 1 is -3. I know the 3 looks like it's smaller, but really it's actually bigger than -4, so be careful with your negatives. Down at the bottom it says simplify and put into scientific notation. This is a review of what we did yesterday. So we need to do 12 times 2.8. So 8 times 2 is 16, carry the 1, that's a 9, 0, 4, 2. We have a 6, 13, 3. And we only have one number behind our decimal, so we have 33.6 times 10 to then since we're multiplying, we add our exponent, so it's 10 to the 5th. However, this is not in scientific notation, so I need to move my decimal over 1. So since my number is getting smaller, my exponent is getting larger by 1. So I'm going to have 3.36 times 10 to the 6. Number 2, just like before, we need to multiply our two just regular numbers first. So 0.4 times 0.2. 2 times 4 is 8. That's the only thing we multiply. But we notice we have two numbers behind our decimal, and I only have one here. So I need to add a 0 and a decimal place. So far I have 0.08 times 10. We add our exponents. -2 plus 3 is 1. Now this is not in scientific notation. So in order to change this, my decimal needs to be behind my 8. Since my number is getting larger, my exponent is going to get smaller, but this time I moved it twice, so I'm going to get smaller by 2. So this is going to give us 10 to the -1st power as our answer. Number 3, we start off with dividing 2.7 divided by 9. 9 goes into 2 0 times, 9 goes into 27 3 times, and that's perfect. So I have 0.3 times 10. Then we subtract our exponents, top minus bottom, so 9 minus 3 is 6. Again, this is not in scientific notation. So to make it in scientific notation, my decimal needs to be behind my 3. My number got larger, so my exponent is going to get smaller, this time only by 1. So this is going to be times 10 to the 5th power. And then our last one, we have 1.44 divided by 12. 12 goes into 1 0 times. 12 goes into 14 once. We subtract, we bring down to 24. 12 goes into 24 twice. So we have 0.12 times 10. Again, we subtract our exponents, top minus bottom, so 4 minus 7 is negative 3. Again, this is not in scientific notation. My decimal needs to move to be between my 1 and my 2. My number got larger, so my exponent is going to get smaller by 1. So this is going to be times 10 to the negative 4th power.